Okay, I'm called Sunyatta Saraswati. That was the name that my teacher gave me. And it was very interesting because for many, many years I felt that it didn't fit my personality. By being Virgo in nature, I had a very inquiring mind about how the spiritual path worked and how that I could translate this into Western terms so we could help each other grow. And I might as well say this right now, there aren't any students here. We're all teachers becoming. That's the bottom line. No students here. Because as you practice these techniques and develop and grow, it's Babaji's wish that you share this with other people. My grandmother took me to see Paramahansa Yoganandaji, and he took one look at me, which is in some of the literature I gave you. You can read that later. But he took one look at me and told my grandmother, he said, he cannot be a Kriyaban. Now, a Kriyaban is what we call the Bhakti path of Kriya Yoga. It's pure surrender to the cosmic force and to allow that divine will to work through you. It's more devotional chanting, surrender and service. And he knew basically, I guess psychically, from his interpretation of whatever he sensed in me, that I was not of that particular constitution. So he sent me to study with my first, what we call root guru. And that's your guru that brings you up on the spiritual path from the beginning. He took me to Shilaji, the Temple of Kriya Yoga in Chicago. And from him, I was initiated into what we call the Kriya Jyoti lineage. Jyoti means knowledge or divine light. So basically, working through my particular personality and intellectual ability or whatever, that I was trained in all the various esoteric aspects of Kriya Yoga. Not just the kirtan, the singing and dancing and celebration, but the technology, the inner technology of how and why Kriya Yoga works. Not just that it works, but how and why. And for many, many years, I went through a struggle of learning that Kriya Yoga, the way I was taught, was the path of the will. And that kept me off balanced. So we have to learn how to balance the power of the will with the power of surrender. And for 20 years, going back and forth to India, I went through this battle of saying that I am doing this. And eventually you realize that it's doing you. And I was very fortunate to meet my first Tantra Kriya teacher that initiated me into sexual spirituality using the Kriya Yoga techniques to take yourself on a much more accelerated path back to what we call the God force, coupling with your beloved in a very, very spiritual way. And I found that that was okay, but I still couldn't surrender to what we call the Kundalini life force. It was still lodged in the Muladhara chakra here. It was always buzzing and generating, but I had no real technology to start moving the energy. And my guru, Paramahansa Satananda, very, very eclectic Tantra Kriya master. And in India, if you've been to India, you know that once you have aligned your energy to one guru, that's your guru for life. Well, Satananda said, Sunyatta, you go and you study with everybody from all the different cultures. Whether it's Taoism, Jainism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and see where there is a common cord that binds them all together. And he said, but before you do that, I want you to go meet somebody. I said, sure. And he sent me to a place called Pune. And I met Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. And at that time, he was still a college professor. He wasn't even what we would call a Swami or Guru. And Satananda said, I have opened up your mind. I want you to meet somebody to open up your heart. Bhagwan, and he took one look at me and he hit me in the chest, and the path of surrender started to manifest in my being. Up to that time, I had resisted it totally. The verbal intellect would not allow me that type of surrender space at this time in my life. He could not initiate me in what they call their sannyasa order because I'm a member of the Saraswati order in India. Saraswati is the goddess of arts, learning, the sciences, prosperity. And I chose that as my idealized image to work through because I feel that we as human beings on this physical plane, those are the attributes that we're constantly trying to develop in our own consciousness. So I became a sannyasin of the worship of the goddess Saraswati.